and welcome to Think Wonky. My name is Colette and I'm going to help you get creative with your branding and your content creation. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you 2 techniques to overlay a testimonial onto paper using Canva. Here's a quick look at a before and after. In the top image, you can see a testimonial screenshot overlaid onto the background with a shadow underneath it. On the bottom image, which is the after, the same testimonial can be seen on a paper background. And today I'm going to show you 2 techniques that you can use in Canva to get the same or a similar effect. I'm going to begin by duplicating this image by using the duplicate page icon in the top, at the top right of the page that I am editing. And I'm just going to delete the image that I already have there so that we can start from scratch and I can demonstrate what to do. Next, I'm going to come to my folders over here and find my testimonials, where I have a selection of pre-uploaded testimonials for use in my Canva graphics. If you haven't done the same, I recommend spending a little bit of time grabbing some screenshots of nice words that people have said about you and just keeping them in a separate folder in Canva. They can come in really handy when making any kind of content, whether it's for video or static images. Of course, the struggle I have now is finding the exact testimonial that I used in the above image. Found it. Okay, technique number 1 is for those of you who use Canva Pro. There is a workaround for those of you who don't, and we will talk about it. The second technique, however, it doesn't matter which version of Canva you are using. So let's begin by finding a scrap of paper. Over on your left panel toward the top, you will see templates, elements, uploads, and more. To find your scrap of paper, come to your elements. As you can see, I've already put in the search torn paper to come up with a selection of different papers that I might want to use for today's demonstration. This is the same scrap of paper that you can see above, and we're going to start with this. First of all, I'm going to resize it to approximately the size that I want, and then I'm going to grab my testimonial and place it in front of it. There are a couple of ways I can do that. I can either go to position in the top right hand section here, and I can click either forward or bring it to front, and then of course I can move it backwards if I want to. If you look to the right here, you'll see there are some icons which give you the keyboard shortcuts that you can use to save you a little bit of time down the line. And I'm going to change the size of that so it's roughly over that paper. If you've got Canva Pro, you go to Edit Image and you can just do Background Remover. Something to be aware of when you're using Background Remover on text, occasionally Canva will leave parts of the screenshot there that you don't particularly want. So always use the Erase brush to just check that you can remove all of the bits and pieces that you don't particularly want. So I'm going to erase the name and the minutes, and then this last bit of the testimonial, maybe a ridiculously low price, because let's face it, that's all in the eye of the beholder, right? And it depends on which service I'm offering as well. So let me just remove that there. Okay, so there's my testimonial that I'm going to use, and I'm just going to come to the top here and click done. And now I have my nice bit of text which can go beautifully over my piece of paper. I'm just going to use those handles to get rid of the extra space and position it so that it fits onto that bit of paper. I might have to change the angle slightly to make sure it fits. There's one more thing that I would recommend here. Obviously, make sure you click apply. But one of the things that I would recommend here is to adjust your settings. So when you are cutting out the background behind text, what happens is sometimes the text can thin, or it can leave faint edging around the text, which can affect the way it appears. Generally, it doesn't matter, but you may find that increasing the contrast, reducing the brightness can have a much better effect on that text. Another thing you might want to do if it has any kind of edging is play with the highlights to just remove that kind of edging and make sure it fits. Another technique that I like to do is come to the transparency and just make it ever so slightly transparent so we can see some of that paper texture coming through. Although, to be honest, most people are not going to notice, so don't overthink it. Once that's roughly in place, you then have the option to add a shadow to your piece of paper or not. In the case above, I've added a shadow to give it some extra lift, but it's not necessary. If you want to do that, again, you just come to Edit Image, Shadows, and then you can play around with whichever shadow works best for you. If you like that background removal technique and you don't have Canva Pro, you can always go to remove.bg to remove it freely from a third-party website. I'll put the link down below. However, it doesn't hurt to have a range of different skills and techniques. So let me show you another way where you can blend a testimonial onto a piece of paper so that it looks seamless. Now, before I teach you this technique, something to be aware of is how well balanced the color is on the background that you're using. The reason being is that you're going to be editing this foreground image or the testimonial or the screenshot so that it matches the coloring in the background. If the background has one color or one shade or one tone on one end and a different color and a different shade on the other end, this technique is not going to work. So this piece of paper here, you can see we have on the left side near I cannot recommend, the paper is quite bright and quite white, whereas on the other side there is a lot more shadow. So this piece of paper isn't going to work. So I'm going to delete that piece of paper and use this alternative. One of the reasons I'm using this alternative is because it's a much warmer kind of paper and you can see much more clearly how different those colours are. And what we're going to do is match this colour to this paper. First of all, let's make sure that the testimonial fits the paper. Next, go to Edit Image. And again, we're just going to come to Adjust Brightness, Contrast and Saturation. And we're just going to play with these elements. Usually, the main ones you need to play with are contrast, warmth and cool, possibly highlights and shadows, and maybe vibrance. Let's start with contrast. I'm going to increase the contrast, which will make the text darker and the background lighter. We'll put it up to about 13. We can play with this a little bit more. It's always going to change depending on the screenshot and the paper that you're using. However, one of the things that I will always recommend when you are creating any kind of content is to make sure that you have brand rules that you follow. And once you've got these elements in place, you can actually save them to use them time and time again. So let's increase that contrast, and then we can see this paper is yellow, which is a much warmer color, whereas the screenshot is kind of more blue or more purple, which is much cooler. So we need to increase the warmth, probably quite a bit. So I'm going to come up, I'm going to come up to about 36, 37-ish. But you can still see there is you might not be able to see on your screen, but on my screen, I can see there is still quite a distinction between the two. It's still quite a bit darker than the background. So I'm just going to play with those highlights and increase them a little bit until it blends perfectly and seamlessly with the background. So what next? Next, you need to come down here to this filter code and save it. You can copy that filter code and add it into a document, or just make sure that you save this document in your Canva file so that you can find this code again. Because at some point in the future, you will probably want to use a different testimonial. Let's just grab this one for example, and we can quite simply come to Edit Image, See All, and put that same code in from earlier. So it will match the paper beautifully no matter what testimonial you're using. If you'd like to see this design in action, you can follow me on LinkedIn. Just look for Colette Stevenson or follow the link below. And don't forget, if you liked this video, let me know below. And don't forget to subscribe so that you can see more videos in the future.